All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 78 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Julian, admin on the FAQ message board. Joining me today from sunny Sweden, Daniel.
Yep.
Welcome back. And Mark.
Yes.
Marcus Almighty. And Ken. 69th Blizzard. Good to see you all again today. I don't think we have any news this week. No one in KISS has done anything insane, so I think that's probably a good thing. Good thing for once. We can just get straight into the topic. Shout out to Lonnie, of course, who took the reins last week for me so that I could be a lazy bugger. And I nearly forgot about this show today, I will say, and just managed to get my laptop powered up in time. So, woohoo, having a good day. So, all right, let's jump into this. I guess it's a bunch of topics today. Daniel, it's kind of your idea, I believe, the first afflictions, and kind of, our first kisses in many different ways, and how, this band entered our life, particularly to the point where we're sitting on a Skype call talking about the band. I mean, I think we've fallen pretty deep into that disease to get to this level. So, let's go with, chapter 1, first kiss. Your first kiss memory, and what was it that grabbed you? Was it the sound, the artwork, the visuals? Where did Kiss grab you by the ears?
I remember it very specifically. I think it was back in 1985. I was at a friend's house, and we were going to sleep over in a tent in the backyard. And he brought this boombox, and it had a black cassette. It was a copy of the Animalize album, and he put on like Heaven's on Fire. And that was actually the first time I felt that this music, I had never heard anything like it. It grabbed me by the balls, and I felt like this is what the hell is this? This is the best I've ever heard. I want more of this. So it was not about the looks. It was not about the makeup. It was purely the music. I didn't know anything about Kiss. I've never heard about them. And I guess I was just at the right age when I heard this. I've started to become interested in music, but when I heard that song in that tent, in that backyard, back in '85, things were never the same. So it's kind of eerie to think of what kind of consequences that night in that tent had for myself. I mean, this is like 100 years later, and I'm still into Kiss. I wonder what would have happened if he had played like Mötley Crüe's latest album or something. Van Halen.
Hall & Oates.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure that it was just because it was so great, but I think it was more that I was ripe, I was ready for some heavy metal music. But that's my earliest memory, and I was about, 7, 8, 9 years old. Wasn't that old, but I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was really cool. So that's my first memory.
Do you still get a special feeling where you hear that one song, that first song?
Yeah.
Does it still get
yes.
you?
Yes. Always. It's kind of, when I hear the beginning, I can't do it myself, and neither can Paul. But that beginning.
Yeah, his warm up yodel.
And it was like an accident. He was warming up for the song, and they just kept it. But the hair on my arms, they raise still to this day. It's kind of strange. I don't know what happened, but it got me.
That's the magic of rock and roll. Hey, Mark, what about you?
Well, I actually vividly remember it as well, because I was about 7, 8 years old, and I used to live in an apartment building, and when my parents were working, my older sister would babysit us, because there was 3 younger kids, like me and my 2 younger sisters and my older sister, and she would sometimes take us over to her friend's place, which was like 2 floors up, and this guy was like a huge Kiss fan, and he had Kiss stuff all over his room. And I remember that was my very first introduction to it. I walked into his room with my sister, and he had like Alive 2 on his wall there, and just that picture of Gene with that blood and all that stuff on him there and on that cover. I was like, when I first looked up, I'm like, what the heck is this? I didn't, compute at that point what it could have been, like that this is actually like a band, right? Because at that point, I think I just started getting into listening to music. I was still young, like 7 years old, and maybe was familiar with stuff like, Rush and stuff like that because my sister was listening to it already at that point. But when I saw that picture of that, it really caught me immediately. And I think the guy kind of noticed I was looking at it and was picking up the album and looking at it, and he was kind of like, "You want to listen to some of it?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And he put on, and I'll never forget, he put on, I believe it would have been side 3, which would have been "I Stole Your Love," was the very first song I heard off of that. And just like Daniel, when I first heard that, I was like blown away. I was like, "Wow, what the hell is this?" And I just remember hearing so much like of the audience. I think that more than anything else as well caught me was how much cheering and stuff that you heard from that record, right? Being that it was a live album, it kind of, really caught my attention. So that was really my earliest memory of a Kiss. My introduction to Kiss was Alive 2. So
nice, and I think that's where Ken back in the 70s, though, for you wouldn't it have been?
Yeah, well, that was my first album I bought, but that wasn't the first thing I heard. The first thing I actually heard, and when I was over at a friend's house, we were, we would listen to albums and whatever, and he said, "Hey, you got to listen to this," and he didn't show me the album cover or anything. He just put it on, and I hear, it's acoustic, nice acoustic, mellow stuff coming in, and all of a sudden, it just kicked in, and it was like, holy, what the heck just happened? It was "I Want You" off of Rock and Roll Over, the first song, and I was like, wow, what is this? And it just grabbed me right away, just the whole thing, the sound and everything, and it was so different to what I was listening to at the day, at the time. And he pulled the album out and showed me, and that cover, the Rock and Roll Over cover with hand drawn faces and things. I thought, wow, this is like comic book kind of stuff, and that was right up my alley. I mean, I was a person that would be buying comic books weekly, Batman or whatever, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I didn't even know what they looked like on stage yet or anything like that, but it was just the music. And then it got to the point where Calling Dr. Love was on there, and hey, wait a minute, I think I heard this on the radio, and I didn't know who it was. And I thought, I like, this song's great. And so that was it there. Rock and Roll Over was my introduction, and I Want You just totally kind of like just hit me in the face when right after the acoustic part, it just like, oh, okay, this is not going the way I thought it was going to go. So,
that's really cool, and what a great song also to be your first Kiss, to be grabbed like that. I think I've told my story a few times, and it probably changes every time I tell it, like many stories. It's like a fishing trip. That fish gets bigger and bigger every time you recount it.
Yeah.
But obviously, with moving to America in 1978, I started school in, it must have been January 79, and Binghamton, New York, MacArthur Elementary School. There was a talent show, and I think it must have been very soon after joining. And again, it's so far back in time that I don't remember. And kids dressing up in their tinfoil and black and imitating Kiss on stage to Deuce and Black Diamond, I think were the songs. That was my first experience of Kiss. And those two songs, Deuce, to this day remains that one song. I gotta hear it live in concert every time I go. It's the one I want to hear. It's the one which, like Daniel, will make the hairs raise up on my arm, and I'll have that response. Even though at the time I didn't get into the band, it was just like, it was one of those things that, wow, what the hell is that? Why are they dressed up? I have no reference. I'd never seen them before. It's just a very visual and I guess emotional thing tied in with moving to America at the time, that it was a big change, and it's the one thing that really stands out in my mind from being 7 years old. So took a good few years, 5 years, until I got into the band with that album, which I'm not even going to bother naming. But that's my first Kiss. And, like I said, to this day, I want to hear Deuce. I'll never get tired of hearing it. I will never, ever press the skip button on it. And it always makes me smile. And, just you remind yourself of a more innocent time. So cool. Let's get to that. I mean, I know a lot of us have mentioned our first Kiss albums again, so we can probably just kind of go through it quickly without going into the details. Obviously, mine came, 6 years after that first Kiss. My musical journey to get me to Kiss was, it didn't register in '79. I continued listening to John Lennon, the Beatles, and then I went to like Men at Work. My first heavy metal was Judas Priest, United, and Joan Jett, I Love Rock and Roll, but then came Asylum. So Asylum became my first album. Ken, yours, I think you just mentioned briefly as well. So
yeah, so shortly after, it was '77 where I first heard, Rock and Roll Over, or heard Kiss on that. And later on the year, that's when I went and picked up my first, actually went down and bought Alive 2 at the drugstore. So that was the first one. And so it's kind of a special album for me.
Daniel, how about you? What ended up being your first Kiss album?
Actually, I got 3 albums. I remember vividly my 3 first albums. Twisted Sister, Stay Hungry, Animalize, and Asylum. I got them at the same time. I liked Twisted Sister, but something grabbed me about Kiss, and I'm not sure what it was, but I remember playing the hell out of the first tunes on Animalize, and then I skipped Burn Bitch Burn. I rewinded the tape. If you're that old, so you remember that you used cassette tapes back in the day. So I listened to two songs, and then I rewinded it, and I listened again, and then I rewinded, and I did that all the time. So those 2 first songs on Animalize mean a lot to me. And then the the Asylum album, I could actually listen through all of it. And I remember going to my mom and asking, what the hell does Burn Bitch Burn mean? And she looked at me embarrassed, and it means burn witch burn the witch. I saw on her that she wasn't telling the truth.
Nice. Mark, how about you?
Well, I think my sister had a good memory there, because that Christmas, after I saw that album for the very first time, she decided to go out and get me a record for Christmas, and this was the first record I actually got. This is not the actual one she bought me, but getting Alive for Christmas, right, that was actually my first ever album I got. And actually shortly after that, when I started getting really into it, a few months later, I went to the record store and I got myself my first cassette, which was the Paul Stanley solo album. I vividly remember that, because that was, I had a little cassette player in my room, so that was actually listened to a heck of a lot more, because the turntable was in the living room at our, in our house, and the parents and everybody, we all shared it, right? So if I wanted to listen to my stuff, you had to kind of get in line, sort of thing, right? So, but the cassette got played a hell of a lot more. But the Alive record was my first one, and ironically, that's also a Canadian quality record one. Ironically, just like the one I got when I got my Christmas present. So it has a sentimental value to it, right? So.
Yeah, they all do. And, as Kiss fans, I think to a certain extent we live in sentimentality, that so much means special things to parts of your life. When the music and the band has been the soundtrack to your life, it's easy to, get all misty-eyed and teary thinking about stuff. But the next question that you had, and Daniel, I thought this was a really good one, the first poster that you had up on your wall, For me, the best thing, when I moved to Singapore in 1988, is I got the who just shared their desktop?
I think it was me.
Yeah, nothing else.
Oh my
God, that's... That's awesome. So in 1988, I don't even have any pictures of mine, so I'm not going to share any. And it's the Sweden 1976. What is that wooden stage? I always forget that it's at Skansen at the park where they did the photo shoot, and it's just them up on that stage. No instruments because they weren't playing there. It's just a wooden backing that like a dome, like the Hollywood Dome in wood. That was my one that went on my wall. But that room I had in Singapore was like 20 feet high, so I had a lot of wall and a lot of posters. The other one I remember having up was the Kiss Exposed centerfold one of Gene with kind of like the webs. In 1978 pose. So those are my first posters up on those walls. Ken, you?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think actually the first thing I probably stuck up on the wall was like something out of one of the magazines. It could have been even, was it 16 magazine? And the Love Gun poses, them standing there, just stare at the darn things. I'm like, man, this is this is cool. I hadn't seen them in concert yet, so I was like, wow, this is, or even video or anything of them, just pictures I've seen first. So probably one of the other first posters I had were, I know I had the Spirit of '76 poster. I mean, I had a lot of posters. I wish I had them still. Unfortunately, I don't have them all. But I had my walls covered, and I would say that was probably one of the first ones, maybe a Love Gun poster, and it goes on from there,
Yeah, talk about a fire hazard, right? So all that stuff we used to stick on the walls.
They were on the ceiling too, so yeah.
Nice. Mark, how about you?
Well, I remember like back when I was looking through the topic for what we were going to discuss this week, and I had to really think about it. What was my first Kiss poster? And funny enough, when I'm looking through some of my old photo albums, I had a picture of my old bedroom where I had my first Kiss poster. And the funny thing is that I had one Kiss poster up in my room, and I had about 7 other posters in my room, but they were all of topless Samantha Fox in my room. That's all I had in my room. I was laughing when I noticed that. I was like, wow, I must have been really into her. So I had lots of pictures of her, but I had this one was my first actual Kiss poster.
Ah, nice.
Oh, nice.
So I remember when I had that one in my room, and it was right by my door. I had that one, and that's my first one. I vividly remember that poster. I always thought it was the coolest thing, mainly because at that point, seeing that kind of an axe bass was something kind of new back then. I mean, you didn't see very many bass players with a bass guitar like that, and and I was right into starting to play guitar like seriously at that point. I think I was already like 14 at that point, so I didn't get my first Kiss poster until way later. There you go.
Nice.
Yeah, I got it way later into the game after I got my first album and stuff. That took me a while until I got my first poster, but yeah, that was my first one. I was really into that kind of Creatures of the Night era of stuff. So,
all right, well, follow on from there with your first Kiss concert.
Well, that's simple. I mean, I think I mentioned before, I had a couple of opportunities to see Kiss before, and I unfortunately, because of things that came up, I had to miss it. The one that I really kicked myself for was missing the Asylum tour. I really wanted to see them in Toronto, but I wasn't able to do it. But I ended up going, my first concert was the Reunion tour that came here in Toronto. And I'll never forget that. That was, in retrospect, I'm glad that was my first one, because it was a real spectacle. I mean, Maple Leaf Gardens holds like, 15,000 people, but the Sky Dome was like, 60, 70,000 people. And while it wasn't that many people in there, there was a lot. There was like well over 30, I'm sure. So that experience in itself was something to see. They had the inflatables up at that show, and for somebody who hadn't seen a Kiss concert yet, that was something to see. Walk in, you see this huge 50-foot tall inflatables of Kiss. It was like, wow, what the hell is this? And that show kind of cemented what Julian's always kind of said, that Deuce is one of the greatest all-time opening songs in a concert ever. Like that pretty much cemented it for me. So I'll never forget that show. And it made such an impact on me that when they came through again for the Lost Cities tour, I drove all the way to Hamilton, which is about half an hour, 40 minutes from where I live. So that was a little bit of a longer trek, but it was worth it. And I got to see Ace Frehley fall over on stage, which was quite a thing to see. And even after that, when Psycho Circus came, I dragged out my sisters who weren't even into Kiss at all, and they absolutely loved it. So that first show really made an impact on me. I mean, Kiss pretty much took over my life at that point. I was picking up everything I could see Kiss. I was getting posters and stuff like that, and I was in a band at that point, and my other guitar player friend, he was huge into Kiss, and I guess we'll get into that when we talk about that later, but, it made a big impact, that concert.
Daniel, how about you?
My first concert was also the reunion era, the reunion tour in Stockholm. Unfortunately, I was really into the Revenge lineup. I liked Revenge to some extent in the Live 3, and I felt like they were a current band. And then suddenly they decided to become a nostalgia act. But I still had to go and see them because, before the reunion tour, the last time they were in Sweden was in '88, and then I was just a little kid, so I didn't have the opportunity to see that show. And I don't think I missed out on a lot back in '88. But they brought not a stellar set to Sweden. But in '90, the reunion era, I remember seeing them 2 times in a row at Stockholm Stadium, 35,000 each night. People were rabid. They were crazy. And these were some of my first concert experiences. So I thought, wow, this is really something. 35,000 people. People are going nuts. And they're really into the show. So, but I've really never been to a show after that reached the same sort of, what's the name in English? That height of people were crazy, and Kiss were all around the town. People dressed up in makeup and hysteria, I would say.
Yeah,
some sort of Kiss hysteria. Yeah. So it was really an amazing experience, even though Peter Criss couldn't drum at all. Ace Frehley kind of missed out on some solos, but the whole experience was so great. So, I've never been to a concert after that has topped, the experience. They didn't play really great, but the experience, I've never been to a concert when I've topped that feeling. So it was great. But I remember after the show, we walked around there and we sang with people, and everybody was so joyful. And then we asked people, well, do you know Parasite? Let's sing Parasite. And people just looked at me. Parasite? What's that? They didn't know the songs. They were only there for the experience. So people dressed up in makeup and suits and looked like the Dress to Kill cover, but they didn't know a song. So I guess that was a big part of their success on the reunion tour, that people that didn't even know about Kiss, they went to the shows and saw them. But that was my first Kiss experience live.
So we're going to move a little bit further back than the reunion for the next one, Cadden.
Oh, you skipped me, right? Yeah. Okay. I'm skipping. Yeah, we're skipping way back in time.
We're going way back.
Yeah. Well, I guess my first chance would have been 77, but I didn't even know. At the time, I probably didn't know who Kiss was. It was around that time probably I was introduced. So my first chance was 1979. In San Francisco at the Cow Palace, and I've said this before. I was so excited about this show that I was literally sick to my stomach. I mean, I was sick to it. I didn't actually, throw up or whatever. But you had that sick feeling. I was so excited. I was just over excited about finally seeing them. So yeah, see them, at the beginning where, you wanted the best, you got the best, and then the riser, they rose up from underneath in their like statuesque forms in their colored capes and so on, in the fog going, and that was just mind blowing. I was just so overwhelmed by the whole thing. It was just fantastic, and even Mark, I've told the story about the sponges that I picked. The sponges, I sent Mark one. There he is.
Nice.
He has one. That's one of the ones that I actually had, and I sent it over to Mark as with an album. But that was quite an experience that I'll never forget. I remember the people lined up all the way around the building waiting to get in at this show. So, but it's a special thing for me.
Yeah, so my history is more a tale of lament and sorrow of all the opportunities missed, because obviously I didn't get to see them until Psycho Circus. I flew down to the LA show, so at least I saw them with a 30,000+ crowd, and the only time they did the circus. So I think the cool thing with my live history with them is that I've seen them in front of 32,000, and I've seen them in front of 1,000 in a casino. I can't remember even what year it was, the Choctaw casino shows. So both ends of the spectrum. Obviously, you've seen them in clubs as well. So small audience, big audience, Kiss audience for that.
Yeah.
And Psycho Circus, I think it's a little bit like Daniel for me. That was crazy. I mean, that was a event, and it was kind of epic being LA and the first show down there. That I don't have any specific memories from the show other than watching the circus act part of it and thinking how lame it was and how are they going to take that on the road. And then the other thing, of course, for me was being so far away from the stage, saying I can't tell who's who. It's so far away. So that was mine. But I missed so many freaking shows. Binghamton '84. I mean, come on, that a Mark St. John show. If only, But that's life. Donington '88. If only. Living in Canterbury in England in 96, I drank all my money, couldn't go to Wembley. So that is life. Car broke down for Finsbury. Shit. Just pain after pain. Coming back to America in '92, they were up in Binghamton in '92, and that is a frickin' stunning recording that circulates.
Yeah.
But having just gotten off a plane from Singapore, I wasn't set up. I didn't drive at the time. I didn't know anyone, and getting from Scranton, where I was, to Binghamton, just an impossibility. So mine's more about the shows I've missed than the ones I actually got to. So let's move away from that miserable topic for now before I get depressed. Okay, here was a good one, and the first Kiss friend you had. Now that's kind of like two village lunatics finding themselves in the same village. Usually there's only one. So, Ken, did you have a first Kiss buddy, or someone else who kind of shared a passion for the band?
Well, yes. Well, the guy that originally showed me, he was into Kiss, but he was into other stuff too. So my real first friend is actually I would call him a recruit. I recruited him. He was a good friend, and he was at the time, he was into Styx. Okay. And I was like, no. You don't want that. You don't want that stuff. You listen to this. This is the real stuff. And I played him all the best Kiss albums and Kiss music that I loved at the time. This is probably it must have been, this was 1980, probably around there, 79, 80. And he liked it. He thought it was great. and he kind of like got rid of his stick stuff, and he started listening to and since then, he was with me along for the ride. He was my good Kiss buddy, and we went to all the those concerts together, starting probably with he was with me at the 3 Creature shows.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so he was into it. He got very much into it. I think his favorite was like Ace Frehley was his favorite, where mine was Gene Simmons, that kind of thing. But yeah, he was the guy. We went to all those concerts through the 80s and so on. Yeah, that's the one Kiss. But other than you guys now, that was it, for me.
Is he still a fan?
Is he still a fan? Yeah, he's still a fan.
Okay.
He's moved away into another state, but I know he's still a fan based on Facebook and stuff like that. But
yeah,
cool. Daniel, what about you? What about the guy with the boombox who brought Animalize?
Yeah, that was actually one guy, but he never became a fan. But one of the other guys in the same tent, he was 2 years younger than me. He started to like them. And actually, that guy went on to bigger and better things. He became actually an Olympic champion later on when he moved away from Kiss. His name is Björn Ferry. He was an athlete in the Winter Olympics. And when we started out back in the day, he loved the Kiss stuff. And we started off with Animalize and Asylum, and then worked our way back. And then we started playing instruments. We started playing drums and guitars. And then he had a brother that started to play with us. So we kind of rotated. One played the bass, one played the guitar, and the other one played the drums. And then we rotated. So after a year or two, we knew 20 Kiss songs, and we could rotate and play those. So that was kind of our routine. We got together, and he had some really nice parents. They let us play all night long. I don't know how they could bear with us, but we played loud and we played for a long time, and we learned we played a set pretty similar to the Revenge set, those kind of songs. Some old stuff and some newer stuff, and we played the shit out of that for a lot of years. And that guy was my Kiss friend back in the day. But then he started to get into what's the name of the sport when they biathlon. He started to get into biathlon, and then he kind of forgot about the music. But when we get in touch now, he still he likes Heavens on Fire and Tears Are Falling and some of that mid 80s stuff a lot, and he know how to play them on guitar. So that was my first friend. Unfortunately, he kind of left Kiss for an Olympic medal. I don't get it. I don't get how he could do that choice. But that was,
left Kiss for skis and guns.
Yeah, crazy guy. But I stuck to my Kiss.
Nice. Mark, how about you?
Well, when I first met the guy who ended up being my biggest Kiss friend, I was in a band. We were looking for a second guitar player, and he auditioned. And after we started, thinking this could be the guy, he invited me over to his house to maybe start working on some song ideas to see how he would fit in. And I noticed that his whole house was a complete shrine to Kiss. He had every imaginable poster was plaqued. It wasn't just pinned up. He had everything plaqued and framed, and the whole house was nothing but Kiss stuff, black and white pictures of old stuff, like a picture of Ace playing an Explorer, and you name it, anything that Kiss had, this guy had in his house. I mean, it got to the point where he got me so into Kiss, back into it so much that we would start getting all these guitar magazines, and we would start noticing, hey, Paul Stanley, he's using a Marshall, 900 series amp head. So we would go over to the local music store, we would go and try them, and we would buy them each, and we'd try to tweak our settings to sound to see if we can get a Kiss sound from Revenge or something like that. And then we started incorporating Kiss songs into our live set whenever we would play as a band. I remember we used to always do Strutter and She in our set, which used to go over really well. But he he really was into Kiss, and he got me just as heavily into it. We used to go to Kiss conventions together. We got all those bootleg shows on VHS tapes together. We made sure that, this time when you go, you make sure you get Winterland and you get the, the Cobo Hall shows. I'll get the ones from, Australia and this and that, so that we would have everything, and we would not we would just tape it off each other, so we didn't have to buy the same things, right? And it just got crazy. Like, I mean, when we started, Kiss influenced everything that we did. When we started recording demos for our own band, we would, try to, get our amps and stuff set up. We bought Les Pauls, and, I got an Iceman. It's just, with him there, we just kind of explored it to like the 9th degree almost. It kind of got a little bit into our songwriting, the Kiss influence a bit, right, and stuff like that. But it was just great. He made liking Kiss that much more exciting because it incorporated something that we liked doing besides listening to music. We liked playing. We were in a band. We took it seriously. We were making our own music, and loving a band like Kiss, where there were so many other things to explore and stuff like that, it made it that much more cooler, right? And we really, really enjoyed it. I mean, his name is Ted, and I think he still plays now. And he really got me into it. I mean, like I said, it even got to the point where, like I said, we were going out and buying, gear that we were reading off of like magazines. Whenever Paul Stanley would list something, or if Ace would say something, or if Bruce Kulick would say, I got this rack unit, like a Digitech unit, I would go out to Long and McQuaid, the music store here, and I would go and check it out and then go buy it, just because it was so awesome. Hey, I remember that delay setting there. It sounds like Revenge, like Unholy, like his guitar solo bit there. So, it just got to that point where it absorbed every minute of my life at one point.
Well, I'm glad the three of you had stories, because I didn't have any friends who liked Kiss at all. My friends growing up were into Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Cinderella when they came out in '86, and kind of the blues rock, that kind of stuff. So I was the one freak who listened to Kiss. In fact, in Binghamton and Vestal, I only remember there being one other Kiss maniac, and I may be misremembering. There's this guy at high school called Tom, and I would go to secondhand record stores and always hear about some cool Kiss record that had been there the week before that Tom had come in and bought, and I described this guy. So that was the only other guy in Binghamton, or the tri-state area, that I knew of that was into Kiss. But all my friends, they were just Motley Crue, Zapp, and all that. So they had I think grown out of Kiss by that point, because we were all 14 years old, and they had done Kiss when they were 7. Like when so many others had, so with Kiss being out of makeup by that time, nothing. So it kind of moves nicely into the next one, and that's how has Kiss influenced you? And Mark's gone into quite a lot of detail just now, and that was a really great segment, Mark, about being inspired by hearing about the gear, but did Kiss make anyone pick up an instrument? They change your clothing style, making friends, getting a job? Did they influence you in any way? And Mark, did you EBO?
Actually, you know what the funny thing is? That you say that, because I actually have an EBO.
That is awesome.
Because I remember, like, for a while there, when I started getting into, the whole Kiss thing, when I read about that on the Paul Stanley solo record, where it mentioned there that he used an EBO, I'm like, what the hell is an EBO? And I went to go check it out, and then I actually bought one, which is just basically this piece of gear here. What you do is at the bottom here, there's a little piece here, and you place that up against the string, and it resonates. It makes like this vibration, almost like a bow would do when you put a bow across a string. And you put it there and hold it, and it would just play the string, right? And it has 2 settings. There's like a little notch here in the back, right? When you turn it on, see, there's a light there. And when on one way, it'll give you a tone like a one octave, and if you flip it the other way, it'll put it up a pitch higher, like another octave higher. So you can get these really incredible kind of, high pitched sustained notes that you would never be able to do if you didn't have something like this. You would have to put your amp on like 11 and stand in front of it to get something similar to that sound, and this saved you your hearing, especially if you wanted to get that kind of a sound, right? So, and I mean, surprisingly, these became popular again not too long ago here, at least in Canada. And I mean, it just kind of says it all, like the no pick. You don't need a pick to use this thing, right? So, and it's fantastic. I love it. I use it sometimes now for my songs whenever I want to do something where there's like a really long sustained section of notes. You put a lot of reverb on it and stuff, and it sounds really, really cool. You can make like your own kind of mini string section with it, and it's just awesome. I mean, I love using it.
That's one of my favorite parts of the Gap book we put out last year, is the interview with Bob Kulick, where he said one did not interfere with Paul eboing. It's just, that part of Kissteria and his use of that. I love that. So that is awesome. Daniel, how about you on that? How has Kiss influenced you?
Well, I don't know if you can see this, but this is me at work. Let me see if I can do this. Can you see that picture? Nope. Well, let's see now. Now then.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yep, and I have no idea how that's going to look on the show, but that is really cool. That's a cool picture, actually.
Yeah, that's a picture of me at work, actually.
That's kind of Rocky. That's kind of Rocky Horror Picture Show, kind of.
Yeah, that's a picture of me at work, hard at work. I work as a teacher. I teach, what do you say, upper secondary school, second secondary school. Kids from 16, 17, 18.
Yeah, secondary school.
Secondary school, yeah. And then we, once a year, we make a performance. We play for the kids. And as you can see, I have some thing to do with how we approach this show. So I do the makeup for everyone, and it's kind of Kiss-ish, if you. And we play a few Kiss songs, and we change the lyrics to, so the lyrics they're about what happens at school and the students and the we kind of change them up so it reflects our situation, and it really goes over well. And this is me on lead guitar, wearing a silver tie, and I couldn't do like a Paul Stanley star, so it's kind of similar, but it would be too obvious if I did the Kiss makeup. But I think it shows. And half of the kids, they actually know what Kiss is to this day. So they you're into Kiss, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, I sure am. And so this is, to this day, I can still use it at school, and we can do a few exercises with the kids where you can play Kiss music and they can write new lyrics and that kind of stuff. So Kiss is pretty potent in my professional life as well, and I really enjoy doing that kind of stuff for the kids.
You still have that guitar?
That's totally awesome.
Yeah, I still have them. Yeah.
I gotta say,
it looks like a Gibson, but I think it's that cheaper. What's the cheaper? I've had that guitar since I was. Yeah, exactly. Epiphone. I've had it since I was 15, and I bought it simply because I wanted to play Kiss music, and to this day I play Kiss music on it. So, Kiss influence.
The funny thing though is that Epiphones are not really considered that much of a cheap brand. I mean, a lot of people end up playing Epiphones now. They're pretty much like, almost, if you look at Chrysler and Dodge, they're like one of the, like, they're like offshoots of the same thing almost considered now. I mean, sure, Gibson is still considered the higher standard, but Epiphones are still pretty good guitars. So I would keep it if I were you.
Okay, back in the day, it was the cheapest one, so that's why I got it.
Ken, how about you on that one?
Well, just basically, don't listen to others. do what you want to do. You just got to, go your own path. That kind of message, and just do the best you can type of thing. The other thing, what used to be back when I was young, is when Gene Simmons was, don't do drugs and don't drink and smoke. Well, the drinking part didn't actually work too good. I had a drinking mode back when I was younger, but for the most part, yeah, it's about don't let others tell you how you should do or conduct yourself, or you go for what you want to go for, and go for your dreams, and just do what you want. The other thing is, I guess they influenced me is to buy more Kiss stuff. That's the big influence. I'm like bought way too much, but that's the way it goes. But it's a hobby now, so.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out if they've influenced me in any way, and life's like a radio, turn it up to 10, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I don't think they've influenced me in any way whatsoever. I mean, some people might say, no, wait, yeah, they have. You've repackaged your books 15 times. No. That's the only thing I can think of, so.
It never inspired you in terms of like writing? Like, I mean, they weren't an inspiration for writing books or nothing like that? No?
Well, obviously I wrote the books, or I wrote the stuff, because some people get upset if I call them books. Obviously they inspired me to do that, but in my life, have they inspired me in any way? Not particularly. To me, they've always simply been the soundtrack to my life. Kind of the partner that walks along with me from 14 years old to how old I am now. They're a constant in my life, where people have come into my life and gone, with being in different countries and in different hemispheres, and living all over the world. The one constant throughout my life has been Kiss, so they haven't needed to influence me in any way. I mean, there was one phase where I went through the Paul Stanley Crazy Nights kind of dress sense, and I'm not talking about blue thongs, so don't go there. You can all breathe a sigh of relief as well, and it was just the
that
gene
image. I don't know.
Yeah, that image is too much. Everyone's sticking ice picks in their eyes now. It was the jean jacket with the patches, and I went absolutely nuts, and had the big patch on the back and all these other patches and pins. And I mean, this jean jacket weighed about 15 pounds with all the rock and heavy metal shit that was on it. And I had a fantastic. I saw one up on eBay the other day. Actually, it was an Asylum patch, blue background, red Asylum logo. I nearly bought it because it was one of my favorite patches, but. Then I had Motorhead and Public Image and all that shit on as well. That's the only way I guess they've ever influenced me or inspired me. But let's get that blue thong out of the brain and move on to the next one. When was your height of Kissteria? How did it affect you? Did it cause you to make enemies? Were you watching too many Kiss videos? Were you, was it affecting work, school, relationships, or whatever? Daniel, let's go straight to you on that. Has Kiss ever been a virus in your life?
Yes, it has. At some point, it was kind of an addiction. You couldn't keep your eye. When you went home from school, you wanted to see some Kiss video. So you put on a concert, and you watched 2, and you watched 3 concerts. When it was Sunday, they had here in Sweden the European version of Headbangers Balls. Headbangers Ball, not Headbangers Balls. Headbanger Ball.
That sounds like a porno movie.
Headbangers Ball. Yeah, that's the one. And it ended at 2 a.m. and I watched it like it was religion. And Mondays at school I wasn't the best student, so it was kind of hard. You couldn't stay away from it. You came home. Am I going to go to a friend, or am I going to put on Asylum or Revenge or whatever it was the CD you liked at the time? And I'm just going to listen to a few songs, and then you sat there and listened to the whole album, studied the lyrics, and since English wasn't my first language, I had to try to find out what the songs were about. So I learned a lot of English from studying Kiss lyrics. So I wanted to know what it was about. And so it influenced me a lot. I listened too much and spent too much time on bad bootleg videos from Cardiff 1992. I mean, there was no one else in my town that watched those videos, so I was kind of a freak, and it became like such an addiction that I didn't tell people that. What did you do last night? I didn't say that I watched like 3 Kiss videos in a row, and it was amazing. So because this was somewhere around maybe 92, 93, and by then Kiss was all but dead over here. I don't know how it was over there, so it wasn't cool to like Kiss, but it was kind of an addiction. I would that's what it was like for me. So it took some time to get off that addiction, and the best thing that happened for me was the reunion, because then I got completely off that addiction. What they played live didn't sound great, and I liked it. Was great because everyone else seemed to like Kiss all of a sudden. Everyone else seems to say like, "Ooh, it's like the second, third moon landing. Kiss is back." And yeah, but have you listened to them? I said, it's there's a lot of bombs and explosions. It's great. Yeah, but listen to the drums on like Japan 95 and Stockholm 96. There's quite a difference. It doesn't matter. It's Kiss and makeup. It's great. So actually, after a few years, I guess by the time of the farewell tour, I'd had it. I was so disappointed in the band, so I kind of checked out and tried to listen to other kind of music. But when they started becoming a band again and making records, I kind of came back. But nowadays they are started to become that same sort of thing. They don't release records, and they play the same stuff over and over. So if they don't release a record soon, I don't know what I'll do.
You'll go crazy.
Crazy. I started listening to Sinatra. That's what I did back in 95. 96, 97 there. I started listening to Sinatra and Sarah Brightman. I don't know what happened to me.
Wow.
Tried to become someone else. But I got back after some time.
So I guess for myself on that one is height of Kissteria. I guess for me, 96, 97. I was at the University of Kent at Canterbury, and instead of going to class, I was either drinking, playing snooker, or trading Kiss cassettes. I used to drive the people at the post room absolutely nuts with the amount of packages that were coming in, primarily from Sweden, Germany, and the U.S. There would be packages every single day, Kiss cassettes just coming in, and I'd be spending all my time, instead of going to lectures, dubbing tapes as part of the trading. And at that time, I was also kind of really building out the FAQ, so I was listening to all of these tapes and transcribing the set lists and spending my time online for what it was back at that time, building up the website. So it really became an addiction, and I was asked to leave the university since I wasn't really participating in the learning experience, which bored me to death anyway. It was computer science, and I was not interested in vector graphics in the slightest, or databases. If I knew then what I know now, I would have paid a little bit more attention, but I was just so into the tape trading at that point that is all I did. I just taped and taped and taped and traded and compared and taped and compared, and it just became absolutely nuts. I mean, it's probably a period that goes through about 2001. After I moved back to America, all I did, because I didn't have any family, I didn't have any responsibilities. I got a job after a couple of weeks in San Francisco, and I had a paycheck coming in every week, and it was just eBay, buying. I mean, 500 different Kiss singles, buying all this Kiss shit, basically, that I just didn't need, and kept going with the trading. So yeah, there was a period in my time that it all became a bit nuts and excessive, and most of that stuff's gone. So, Mark, how about you?
Well, the interesting thing is that I would say that my period will also be around the same as you guys, 96, 97, up to about 99 or so. But for me, it wasn't so much about collecting records and collecting things like that. What I ended up finding was that the music itself, and that started creeping a lot into my writing, I found. And I started realizing when I was listening to the stuff that we were doing then that my songwriting was veering towards that style of music a lot, which is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you're in a band, an original band, and you're trying to make your way into the scene, you want to bring something more of your own into it, and something not so obvious, right? Which, you can pick out a Kiss kind of song anywhere, I think, because it's pretty easy to pick out stylistically. And I just found that because of my love of Kiss and how much I was into it, it was just so melded into my playing at that point and stuff like that, that I really had to sit down for a minute, think about this, and realize that I had to take a step back a bit from Kiss stuff and start reintroducing other bands back into my listening experience. So I started bringing back in stuff like, Yes and King Crimson and my Rush stuff, because I always was listening to Rush at that point, but just more of it in there. And I started approaching my love of, figuring out gear and stuff like that with those bands as well as Kiss. So I kind of found that while Kiss has never left me as stylist, like influence-wise in my music, it's now has a good balance in with the rest of the other music that I like. So now when I write music, I don't feel that it's such a, standout thing in my writing now. I feel that it's a part of it and never just so much of it, like like some people love AC/DC, and when they write a song, it sounds like AC/DC, So I think that was the main thing that I kind of got caught up with as far as that went. And, like I said, I still love Kiss. They'll never not be in my life, but I really had to start reintroducing back other music into my life at that point so that I would become a more balanced musician, at least from that point.
What kind of lyrics did you write? Did you write like you put a log in the fireplace or?
No, nothing like that. Actually, for the longest time, I never really wrote lyrics. Our drummer, and that's where the Rush influence was. Our drummer was our main lyricist. He wrote everything, but he was right into like the whole Neil Peart thing, Ayn Rand books and that kind of stuff. So that there had it was always those kind of questioning life kind of lyrics, but never so obvious. It was always those ones where you had to kind of read it a couple times and go, what the hell is he trying to say here, kind of lyrics, which I kind of liked. I didn't, I liked having a little bit of, thought process into things like that.
That's very cool. That's again another great segment, Mark. So thank you, Ken. How about you on that?
Well, I'd probably say it's been waves. probably around 79, I was buying everything I could get my hands on. I think, the trash can, I had the lunch box and everything else, and posters, anything, and any magazine that had their face on it. So I was just kind of getting anything and everything back then, and even it's never really waned so much. I guess it through the 80s, mid 80s, kind of slowed down a little bit for me. I think when Revenge came out, and then around that same time, there was a lot of bootleg videos coming out, and I was picking up a lot of VHS bootlegs and watching the old stuff. I'm like, man, I never seen this before, and it was pretty cool. I was like, wow, that's awesome stuff. And then it kind of reached another height again in the 96, the reunion, and it was like all over again, back when it was 79 for me, or 78, 79, that period. It was kind of, here we go again. It's another wave. It's like the same thing happened again, and all this merchandise was coming out. A lot of all these magazines were out, and it was another. I was just totally into it. And then the computer, I was on the net at that time when it was first around, and I was looking at the sites like all the time, the Kiss Asylum and Kiss Otaku, So I was on there. I was checking it. I think I won something off of KissFAQ one time. There was some kind of contest. I think I won. I can't really remember. I won something, but something free. And so that was, the other height. And then it's just kind of been steady up until now. I never jumped off. I never jumped off the Kiss ship. I was always on it, riding it the whole way. And the way where I maybe don't buy everything I see now, I more particular in what I may purchase from them, but I always get the music for sure.
Nice. I had to work to get off the Kiss ship, I had to. I felt this is an addiction. I have to do something about it. I can't keep on doing this, watching these bootleg videos and listen to this music. Or I have to do something about it. So I had to work with it, and I got off the Kiss addiction at least for a few years there. But then I got back on it.
Yeah, you're not getting off this carousel.
No.
Just when you think you're out, they drag you back in. So what do other people think? I got to step away for 1 second here, so I'm going to throw this one out there for you guys to discuss just while I step out. What do other people think about your interest in Kiss? Positive, negative? Do they just pat you on the head and it's okay, nobody's perfect? Daniel, what do people think about you and Kiss? And I'll be back in a moment.
Nobody's perfect. Yeah. Actually, people do still to this day call me or get in touch with me when there's some sort of Kiss news or some Kiss happening in the media. Oh, have you seen this? So they still regard me as the big Kiss fan and the big Kiss, know it all, and he always want to know everything about Kiss. So to this day, I can have guys that I haven't been in touch with for a few years. They call me, Kiss is on television. Have you seen it? So I don't know. It's kind of, they like it. They at times I feel like they view me as some sort of freak, but not really in a bad manner. They kind of appreciate that you can have this kind of, interest in something that is, not the hippest thing to like. So I do feel you get some sort of, appreciation because you know it. And if they wonder about something, they also get in touch and they know I have the answers. So I think it's kind of, that if you know a nerd, it's kind of cool at times. If you want to know what kind of bird you see, you go to the ornithologist and you ask him what kind of bird is that, and he can answer you. So that kind of, it works like that. But I don't go. When I'm like a teacher, I don't, say that I'm this big Kiss fan.
Right.
I kind of keep it, to myself at times, and. But as a freak, you're always interesting at some point, or sometimes when I want to know something, or so. So I'm glad being a freak. I'm a freak. Wasn't that a song on one of the later albums?
Off of Monster.
Yeah. Monster. Yeah. Pretty good song. Mark, how about you?
Well, I think my family kind of, at one point, just kind of accepted my whole love of Kiss. I mean, it just kind of got to the point anyways where they realized that I was just so much into music that this is going to be just part of my life in general. Like, once I graduated from high school and stuff, I started doing my, my co-oping for recording studio stuff and production and stuff like that. And I was into the band and, started playing in bands and started doing tours. So they knew that this was something serious. It wasn't just some, fly-by-night thing that'll pass with time with me. But, as far as the Kiss thing goes, like I said before, at that time period, I was so into it. I think my family, for the most part, kind of just accepted my love of Kiss. But where I kind of noticed that maybe some people were having comments about it was if I was to bring, let's say, people that I weren't involved musically with in my car somewhere, they would go into my car, into my glove box or my discs, and they'd always say, "Do do you have anything else besides Kiss to listen to? Because it would just be nothing but Kiss CDs inside there, and I would kind of like think about it for a while and go, you know what? I really don't. I mean, I do have other stuff at home, but I would never bring it. I realize after a while that maybe I should, bring maybe the odd Rush CD or the odd Yes CD or something different just to mix it up a little bit, right? But I don't think that it was ever frowned upon by my friends and stuff like that. They just realized that I loved the band, I loved music. They knew how much I was into it and stuff like that. So I don't think it was ever a negative thing. But if there was ever any negative comment made, it was just that. Like if we were going like a long car drive for 2 hours, they'd pray to God that I would bring something else besides just my whole entire Kiss collection.
Ken.
But weren't they giving you a hard time, when the Guns N' Roses and Metallica came along? And Kiss were so... Because I remember at my school, people listened to either Metallica or Guns N' Roses. You couldn't listen to both. You had to pick sides,
Yeah.
But Kiss were never in the deck, so to speak. But I remember I could show them the Unholy video, and then they shut up. They said like, "Oh, is that really Kiss? Well, kind of good." Even though Julian doesn't like that video or song, but
hey, no one's perfect. I'm glad at your school it was Guns N' Roses or Metallica. Mine was Guns N' Roses or In Excess. It was
what?
Yeah.
Crazy people.
No, that was too new. It was.
Oh, okay.
Listen Like Thieves. I still love that. I still love that stuff. So, Ken, how about you?
Yeah, well, for me, starting off like Mark. I mean, my parents. My mom was so cool. She let me, cover my whole room with everything. I mean, she didn't say one bad thing about it. I'd have her come into my my room and say, "Hey, listen to this Kiss song." This is like when the solo albums came out. I was playing her "Living in Sin," stuff like that. She didn't care. She was all right with it, which was cool. But beyond that, when people thought, when I was in the Kiss, I never got any real negative things. And today, when people hear Kiss, it's more of a surprise. They're like, "You're into Kiss?" I guess I don't know what a Kiss person, fan is supposed to look like or whatever, but they don't, it's like a surprise to them. And again, my sisters were all cool with it too, and they, everyone was all good about it. I never had I can't remember any negativity thrown at me when they said I listened to Kiss, or it may have happened, but maybe I just forgot about it. I just ignore that kind of stuff. It doesn't bother me. It just kind of rolls off my back. So just most people say, like, even like Daniel said, someone would come say, hey, Ken, you hear about that Kiss is going to have a concert? I was like, yeah, I'm way ahead of you here, because I'm on top. I'm always on top of it. But if they want to talk about that kind of stuff, I have plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I think what's kind of funny for me is people who've known I've been into Kiss, they're just like, "Do you still listen to Kiss? Still? You're still doing that?" But yet they're the ones who'll get me, send me clippings from England, and
Right.
something arrives in the post. Hey, we thought of you. I'm like, okay, cool. Neat. But usually it's just that look they give you, like you're a little bit mentally deranged. Still, really, Julian, really. But whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so describe your current state of your interest in Kiss. Where are you at as a Kiss fan today, Daniel?
Well, the interest has been kind of dipping lately because I felt they had a resurgence there back in 2009 with Sonic Boom and later Monster, but now it seems like they aren't really a current band. They are more like looking back towards the past and putting a lot of effort into while they are great, but the cruises and dwelling into old type of projects that they have done before, and there's really nothing new happening. So the interest is on the slide a bit. Hopefully they'll do something new, because a band without the music, without current music, becomes a nostalgia act pretty fast. So I'm just hoping that they will release more albums, but I will never find another band that I will have this kind of interest in. So I will still, check the news and see what they are up to. But it's hard to be that into the band when they aren't, putting any effort into improving themselves or releasing new stuff and that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that they will do another album. Can always mention it as well. New music. I think it's the most important thing when it comes to a band. If they don't release new music, I'm not sure how long they can keep this up. But it seems like they're selling tickets still in the US, even though they haven't really done anything for quite a few years now. So hopefully they put out new music and the interest will rise again. But otherwise, I'm not sure where the interest will go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with a lot of that. That it all becomes a bit tedious. It's the same. Things take so long with the band as well. We've heard about Kissology 4 or whatever it may be called for a decade nearly. Look how long it's taken them to do anything with Kiss Rocks Vegas, and how slow we're creeping. They've done the in cinema, they've done the pay-per-view, and it's still months away from physical product for people to be able to get their hands on. And that seems to be the only product that's coming this year for the touring cycle. The touring cycle isn't hitting anything near all the markets. I'm excluded from being able to, as are the Europeans, obviously, who, our German friends. They had some dates scheduled and they were all excited, and then they were ripped away from them, so it gets old when we've been doing kind of the same thing over and over, just having these little pockets of activity like the Sonic Boom album or Monster, where something new happens, or the Kissologies. And yeah, we're in the the sunset of their career, but as a fan, I really feel now that personally, I'm wrapping things up with them. I'm kind of putting projects and things that I've wanted to accomplish to sleep and lining nothing up for the future. It's always going to be a matter of that I want to stay a part of the community, so that I know when a new bootleg from, a show from 1974 surfaces, I want to, still be aware of that kind of stuff happening, or some new photographs surfacing, but I don't care as much as I did. And obviously my personal journey has been different than everyone else's in running a website for 20 years and doing all that bullshit that goes with it. In the background, right now I feel like a boxer. At the end of his career, you've been pummeled so many times, you're just a little bit numb to stuff. So like Kiss Rocks Vegas, I'm like, oh, okay. It doesn't really get the emotional response out of me, say, like, if Paul were to say we're recording, or I'm going into the studio, right, and not with Evan. So kind of numbed, kind of knocked down, kind of tired, but still very much hopeful that, one day we're hearing about other new shows surfacing, and stuff that digs back into the history. I'm always going to be interested in that. So, Ken, what about you?
Yeah, for me, it's kind of a little waning out. So I'm keeping myself interested by buying, collecting, vinyl and stuff like that. And then the more exciting thing, even than, Vegas, which is, that's almost 2 years ago that they did the Vegas deal, and it took that long for them to put out, the videos, which is going to be this in August, I guess. So, geez, what the heck, they're, like you said, they're really slow, really slow. And so the most exciting things right now is like the books. I mean, like your book, your books that have been coming out last year. You know, the solo album books, and now the Odyssey, and then the other ones like the Ross Radley. Waiting to hear on that one, and the vinyl book, you know, Tom Shannon's deal. So I'm looking forward to those. Those are the most exciting thing to me, and they're not Kiss products, technically not official Kiss products, and like you said, they're touring, but they're not hitting California at all. I'm still hoping that they somehow add a show Northern California by chance. It doesn't look good.
Nope.
It really doesn't look good, but I'm just kind of hoping. And then like Daniel was saying, the music is really, to me, always been the most important thing, and you got to have that music and the new music. You know, other bands are still doing it. Come on, you know, AC/DC and Deep Purple. You know, other bands are still doing it. Why can't they record it? You know, it's only going to take them a couple. I don't know. They usually you know, whip it out, record it in about a couple weeks or a month. You know, it takes them to do it. They can't put a little effort in there and give something to the fans. I don't think
they know the value of releasing new music.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it doesn't sell, even if you don't make a lot of money, it still shows that you're a current band and that you're into it, and that you're still, you know, an act to count on, and you're not just living on your past. So even though they don't sell a lot of records, I still think it's vital for their popularity to release music.
It's vital, and exactly, it's a to me, it's a domino effect. They put out some new music, they're able to promote new music, and it kind of takes care of itself, as in ticket sales somewhat, and selling other product too. Not just,
you know, they're continuing to be creative, rather than continuing to just do the same thing over again. And it often comes down to like a matter of laziness. I mean, in the past week, Def Leppard's put out a new video, a proper video, not a lyric video, which I find to be the most inane, lazy pieces of shit ever, for Man Enough off their new album. Now, there's some people who don't like that song, but it doesn't matter. It's new music. It's them continuing to be creative, continuing to be a recording band rather than simply rehashing. And even when Def Leppard, for example, did their Vegas thing, they did two. You know, they were doing two shows. They did their whole Kissteria album, and they did a whole B-sides, you know, show, which had some really, really rare shit for, you know, the mega Def fans to really get excited about. Kiss comes out and did 15 songs? Yeah, it's got some cool stuff in there. Tears Are Falling, Creatures of the Night. Yeah, it's exciting. But, you know, Def Leppard gave you Good Morning Freedom, which the equivalent for Kiss would have been them doing Acrobat. So instead you get Tears Are Falling. So
be an artist. What you started out as, be an artist. You know, put out some new music. You know, write some songs. You know. I don't know what the deal is. I really don't know. Like you said, maybe it's just a money thing now, and
it is.
If they do anything original or new now, they are becoming the nostalgia act. Definitely a nostalgia act that Daniel was talking about. I don't want a nostalgia act. I want a credible band that's trying to push the envelope and do new things and new technologies, and even. I would be excited if they did something like we've talked about before, putting out live video shows that they can download from their site, or recorded music, you know, shows from their site. Something out there that creates some kind of more interest.
Yep, go into that audio archive, get some of that stuff up on iTunes. Mm-hmm. You know, simple as that. You know, if Metallica, Pearl Jam, so many other bands, you know, just be doing something, and something instead of nothing. Mark, we haven't gone to you on this topic, so, you know, what are your thoughts?
Well, basically for me, Kiss now are a band that I've gotten back into again, but there was a period between 2001 till about, maybe about even 2011 or so, where they really weren't in my sphere of interest at that point, mainly because I was really getting hardcore into my own music, and I was really starting to play in a lot of and I had a band that was really starting to do a lot of things. We started to tour and stuff like that. And then in around 2006, I got asked to join a band that was pretty popular back in the 80s called Pile Driver. And they were reforming at that point, and he got asked to do a bunch of stuff. And one of them was this festival here in Germany called Keep It True that happens. And it was this is the show that we actually played in. If you see there at the bottom, it says the Exalted Pile Driver there. And we there was the first appearance ever for our band in Europe, because he'd never played there throughout the whole 80s. And this is like, what basically ended up happening was that my sphere of interest turned into this whole scene of these bands. You know, like we were playing with a lot of thrash bands and stuff like that. And there was a big scene in this in Europe, especially. Germany was huge on these kinds of bands, you know, like, like this whole wave of, you know, kind of new wave of British heavy metal, kind of early thrash, which was what we were considered as well at that point, right? So at that point, you know, I was going to Germany, I was going to Greece, Italy, we were playing everywhere. And so my interest in Kiss at that point, it wasn't like it was gone, but I wasn't into it and sitting down and listening to stuff nearly as much as I did back in my days before, right? Like during the 96 to 2001 period. It's because things had really picked up for me musically. So I really focused on that end of it. And now, let's say from about 2013 or so, I left that band because there were some health issues with the singer, and we had to kind of call it a day with him at that point. And then I started working on my own stuff again. And right about the time when I was about to go back and getting things rolling, I broke my leg. Like badly, I broke my leg. Like it was a femur break, and it was pretty bad. Like I think I have a picture of it here somewhere. I'm trying to remember where the hell I put it. But anyways, here it is. The break was pretty bad, and I had to get an operation, and I had to get a pin put in. Yeah, it's I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can see that, but
kind of, yeah.
But anyway, it's
not good.
There's like a pin there.
Oh, that's the X-ray.
Okay. Now I can see.
All right,
okay, now I can see it.
We're not getting the blood and gore. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's just like you see the bone in the plate with the screws there to reconnect my leg, right?
Wow.
And I was out of commission for a long time, and during that time, when I was sitting in the hospital bed for like a few months, you know, Kiss started coming back into play again, because I started, you know, listening to Three Sides and Podcast and stuff like that. And then I discovered, you know, the KissFAQ, and I started going onto the board and doing stuff like that. And then, you know, it just all spiraled from there. And I started getting back into collecting vinyl again, as you know, Ken and Julian and Daniel. And, you know, it just refired my love into Kiss. So Kiss is back into my sphere of stuff. And I'm kind of curious about the future, because like you guys said, me being a musician, if you're not making new stuff, to me it just seems wrong. It's like a painter who doesn't paint. You know what I mean? You have to do it to keep your skill up, to keep your craft up. If you don't keep doing it, you will lose some of that, you know, creativity, some of that skill, because you're not keeping it in motion. You know what I mean? And I think that they still have it in them. I still think they can make a great record. Why not? I mean, they just need some little bit of direction, maybe, you know, bring in somebody to help motivate them, and they can make another great record, you know?
Yeah.
And I really hope that they do it. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed, because, you know, I want to be still, you know, into it and still collecting and finding new things to be motivated by, you know. And right now I've got my records finally done, and I'm going to, in a few months, you know, hopefully put it out, and, you know, people will hopefully get into it and check it out. And, who knows what'll happen from there? Because if I start getting back out into the scene again, I hope that doesn't come away again like it did that time when I was playing around with the band before. I'd love to have Kiss still in my wheelhouse and my sphere of listening, right? So I'm curious to see what happens in the future. I'm still into Kiss. I want to be into Kiss, and I think they can keep people interested if they make something new.
Well, what's the name of your band? The Almighty?
No, it's called Project Gemini.
Okay.
I think the Almighty's already taken as a band.
Yeah, it is. It was a joke. Yeah, he sings in Thin Lizzy now, I think, the singer from The Almighty.
Is he?
He's
he's
the singer of Thin Lizzy.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot
Sacrilege.
lot of weird shit going on with bands these days and all
Yes.
that. All right, let's wrap up this episode with one last question, because you've got one on here that's a perfect time to end this, and I think we can come back with a lot of the other ones that you came up with, Daniel. But to end this one, and it's very suitable, is, and Mark's touched on it already, I guess, a little bit, is what will happen to your interest in Kiss in the future when the band is dead and gone, when Kiss is no more, and we're not following Gene on Twitter and getting outraged, and Paul Stanley stopped tweeting, and it's gone. Kiss Online is just a storefront. Oh wait, where will your interest be? Do you move on to something else, or what? Daniel, let's go with you first on that.
Well, I can still look at some nice pictures of Paul Stanley. No, I'm not sure. It's kind of a strange thought. They always been there from when I've been like 8-9 years old, and they have been a constant, and I've always listened to the new albums, and but when they're all dead and gone, I guess I will become very nostalgic and search even more for bootlegs, and being even more happy when I find something. Much like if you have a friend that's like 20 years older than you, and they still talk about bands that you think, well, why do you still listen to that kind of stuff? They haven't
been or something.
Yeah, some old blues stuff, and they start recording their own versions using the current technology of their old favorites. I guess I will become one of those guys, starting re-recording, Heavens on Fire 2035, new version. I don't think I will ever lose interest completely, but it will be a sad day, the day that Kiss ends for real, when there will never ever be another live performance, and you can always talk about that Kiss 2.0, but to me that's, at least at this point in time, I don't see that working out really well, but you'll never know. I said the same thing when they dressed up Eric Singer in cat makeup, when they fired Ace Frehley, or he quit the final time. I never thought they would come back, but they did. So sometimes I feel that you think that Kiss make a bad decision, but somehow it works out for them. So the Kiss 2.0, at this point in time, I don't have any interest in that, but I'm not sure in the future when there isn't a Kiss 1.0. Maybe you appreciate the 2.0. So we'll see. But there will never be another band that will capture my interest the way Kiss has done. So they will always be with me some way.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to consider Kiss 2.0 when Kiss 1.0 is still around. I don't know. For me, it's like almost a matter of, will it be relief? Because it feels like we've been treading water or on life support in some ways for many years. Will it be relief because the FAQ is kind of done at that point, or maybe is done, or will it be, oh shit, what now? you know, again, like Daniel, there's no bands I follow to that level or interested because it's come from our youth into middle age. You know, the other bands that I was deeply into, Motley Crue, gone. You know, Def Leppard's still going, thank goodness. But, you know, they can't have that many years to go. Rush, gone, for all intents and purposes, with the retirement of Neil. Aerosmith about to do their farewell, and that's one that I couldn't give two fucks about as much as I loved Aerosmith. You know, that they've kind of done the opposite to Kiss and completely destroyed themselves over the last few years as a band, so that you can't wait to see them go in some ways. You know, I'll just put on Done with Mirrors or Draw the Line or Rocks or the good fucking albums, and, you know, and not give a damn that they're saying goodbye, because I guess I've said goodbye to them already. So what do I do with Kiss? I don't know. You know, I just hope that when they're gone, that they're happy. And I'm not talking about them, you know, being deceased. I'm talking about them being done as Kiss and being able to enjoy the fruits of their labors, and maybe Paul can do what he really wants and enjoy. Gene, you know, I would just hope to not see Gene on CNN so much opening his mouth. You know, be retired, you know, be dignified. But, you know, I'll find something. Simple as that. I continue to dig into other bands' catalogs and start from the beginning with them. You know, I renewed my relationship with the Beatles. That's always going to be, you know, maybe I'll find something on iTunes and listen to it and go, oh, I never checked them out back in the day. And oh my God, look, they've got 15 albums, you know. That recently happened to me with Blind Guardian. You know, I suddenly discovered an album, and I was like, holy shit, that's really cool. And, you know, now going to dig more into the band and check out some of their other stuff. So musically, I'm always going to need something to fill that void. And like we've already said, you know, I'm always going to hopefully keep my ear to the ground and know if there's a new bootleg or a new demo that surfaced. Oh my God.
Jeez.
Ken, what about you on that?
Yeah, well, I'll always be a Kiss fan, and if they call it quits, you know, my interest will still be there. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of releases down the road, things that they put out if they're not around. And if they do Kiss 2.0, I mean, I'll give it a go. I'll give it a chance. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I wouldn't mind seeing them, you know. I would like, if they did a 2.0, I'd rather have them, you know, writing the music and having it, you know, doing that kind of thing for the Kiss 2.0 members, whoever they would be. You know, it's interesting that, you know, maybe it can continue with 2.0 because there's a lot of young fans that grew up and they only know the Eric Singer, Tommy Thayer part, you know, Kiss, with, you know, Gene and Paul. And I can see a lot of young fans, you know, coming out for a new Kiss. It's very possible. But you know, I'm not going to stop liking them or anything like that. I'm just going to always be into looking for new Kiss things, and it's just part of my life, I guess. It's always going to be part of my life. But yeah, it'll be a sad day when Gene and Paul are no longer playing on stage and in their makeup.
Yeah, without a doubt. Mark, did we cover you? I've kind of lost track of where we were.
Well, I kind of touched on it a little bit. I just want to end it by saying that I kind of thought about this for a little while too, you know, about what would happen if they left and it was all said and done. I mean, for me, I've kind of had this experience with Rush already, because when Neil Peart left the first time, when his wife and kid died years back, that was effectively the end of Rush then. Surprisingly, they did come back years later. So, but during that time period, there was no reason to think they would be coming back. So I had to kind of experience that once already. And now with them technically retiring from live performance, they are saying that there's going to be more recorded material. So that's good. But, you know, to me, I've loved music my whole life. There's always going to be something that'll pique my interest, whether it's Kiss or another band. To me, what I'm just always kind of curious about is what does the future hold in general? Not only just Kiss, but in other things like other acts, whether it's rock or progressive rock. And I mean, I had a little small segment about this on this other podcast that I do sometimes called DS Music Podcast, and I discussed, what's going to be happening in the future with some of these genres of music. I mean, like when the Yeses are gone and King Crimsons are gone, all these older people are gone, who's going to pick up the flag and carry on for these bands? And I mean, luckily there's bands still like Marillion who are like 10 to 15 years younger than these bands, so there's still time for them to continue. But, I love Kiss. I want them to continue still. I still think they have a little bit of gas left in the tank. But when they're gone, there's still a lot of stuff out there to listen to and to look at and to collect to keep you busy for a lifetime, I'm sure. But, I just, hope that down the line, there'll be other acts that come up to continue and keep the scene strong and keep it going. And maybe there'll be another Kiss. I mean, I know Daniel said that there'll never be a band that interests him as much as Kiss will, but hopefully for an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, there'll be some worthy bands coming up in the future that will be their Kiss in the future.
Well, there's always Justin Bieber. Keisha. Yeah.
Oh.
Or who knows? Maybe some of these bands like Ghost, that seem to have a kind of,
Swedish band.
Well, they got a kind of similar thing going to Kiss in the early days. They've got a mystique, and they don't got the music yet. At least I don't think so. But, they've got possibilities is what I think. Promise, maybe. So who knows? I mean, at this point with Kiss, I just wish the makeup would come off. They take that out of the equation because putting on the makeup and the costumes and all that is just such a time suck now for them. That I think they could better serve their energy by not going through the rigmarole of the makeup and just coming on stage in leather and comfortable. I don't care if Gene wants to wear those god-awful jackets that he wears. If that's what Gene...
blazer.
I'm sorry. If Gene Simmons is comfortable in that, I'd rather he be comfortable in that than going through 2 hours getting ready or whatever it takes him now, 45 minutes, getting into the makeup, getting into the costume. I'd rather him just stroll on stage, be comfortable, and be able to play an extra 5 minutes or maybe feel a little bit better when he walks off stage because he isn't young. Simple as that.
Sure.
Same with Paul and Tommy. Reclaim that 45 minutes or whatever it is. Make things easier. But who knows? The thing with Kiss is it's always going to be interesting to the end. So, no doubt we're going to have. God, yeah, Asylum. Yeah, somehow I don't think they'd go back to that.
Yeah, I hope not.
As much as we may like the album, Daniel, I don't think either of us ever want to see those costumes again. But all right, let's wrap that up. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me. Daniel, we're going to pick this whole topic up again because there's still a whole bunch that we didn't cover, and I think we can expand this down the road and hopefully get the same crew in on it because that was a fun one today. So we've covered some ground that we've talked about a little bit before, and with Kiss there's always going to be a certain amount of recycling. So we hope you've enjoyed this episode today, and we'd love to hear your take on all of these, little mini topics that we've covered because everyone's got their own experience, their own outlook. So, look us up on the FAQ, hop in on one of the topics, go to YouTube, leave us your thoughts, your messages, and of course on Facebook. But we appreciate you listening to us, and thank you all for participating today. We will catch you in the next episode. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final, there are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.